Hi, this is Eric.
Hi, I'm LDH.
And this is Devblog Deep Dive number 40. So we've been waiting for the achievements to come out. And the first piece of news on the Devblog is that should be out within the next 2 weeks. So before the next time you see us for the next Devblog, hopefully we will have our hands on the achievement system.
The friend system is now live on the portal, so you can check it out. You can search for your friends by clicking on users in the left-hand panel and search for their name there. That's where you can invite them to be your friend. And all of this is the phase 1 for the friend system implementation. Phase 2 will be in-game, and then phase 3 will be the party system. You can also compare your progress with your friends using the leaderboard on the portal.
So Flower Sifter has been working very hard on a number of balance changes. The first one that he discusses on the Devblog is actually going to be related to our back slots. So right now, if you have an item, for example, in Spelunking, you need to use a climbing tool on your back. And they are actually changing it now so that you can actually choose different things to put on your back. So that arrow slot that we see right now, because obviously there's no combat in the game, which means there are no arrows, it's now turning into kind of this generic back slot. So you'll be able to put your backpack there. I guess you could put a climbing tool there. And it will be fantastic. So additionally, they're also going to have a cape slot. So this back slot and this cape slot will be separate. So that way, when capes do come along and they do have significance in the game, you'll be able to have more than one item on the back of your character.
I think this is a really good call because arrows are not only just used for combat, but you'd also need to be an archer to use that slot. So this is a really good utilization of that space. One thing I wonder though is my backpack is currently equipped to where my cape would go. So does this mean I can't wear a backpack and, let's say, arrows or some of these other tools? Will that cape slot only be a cape slot?
Well, I mean, based off what the Devblog says, it states in the Devblog that you can wear a cape and a backpack. So I think the idea is, yeah, I guess we'll have to see exactly to figure out exactly how it works. But what we have in writing for now is that you can wear both. So I guess what I'm curious about is, do you have to pick between like a backpack and a grappling tool still? I'm kind of curious.
Flower Sifter also brings us a major rebalancing to the tools that we find in the game. He also describes this with a gear score index, which shows all of the cumulative attributes that each tool have at their respective quality tiers. So for example, if you have a higher quality iron hatchet, it might be equivalent more to like a good or a great Tarsilian. So the purpose of doing this is that it's going to lengthen the early game a little bit. Although it does nerf some of these earlier tools, this is going to really enrich the experience of how powerful the later game tools are going to feel and act.
So here we have an image from Flower Sifter. The purpose of this image is to show kind of the gear score index on certain tiers of tools. So we have it all the way from copper to Tarsilium listed here. And what we can see here is at different rarities. So let's say you have a basic Tarsilium versus a perfect Tarsilium. It shows you where the gear score will be. How much more stats will it have across those rarities? Not only that, but let's say we can compare like a basic Tarsilium to a perfect steel axe. And in this context, we would see that a perfect steel axe actually has quite a bit more stats than a basic Tarsilium. So the whole point of this rebalancing system is to add a great deal of value to crafting so that you're highly incentivized to go and rank up your gear through crafting.
Another big change is that primary and secondary items are moving over to tools. And this will feel very rewarding when you unlock a new tool belt slot. And it's really going to serve as a lot more kind of strategizing with how you're going to equip your tools when you're about to do an activity. The purpose for this is that there's going to be, for example, random encounters that will require combat. And that's ultimately what the primary and the secondary slots were for originally. So now instead of you carrying like a log basket in your primary, it's just either going to be a sword or some kind of weapon. And all the other items that you're accustomed to being there are going to be with tools.
So here we have an image that I was very surprised to see and also very excited to see. Combat's quite a ways away. We know that. But what they've said in the Devblog is that they really want to give us something to put in our primary and secondary slots. So here they are. They have actually already programmed into the game weaponry from Tarsilium all the way down to wooden weaponry. So how it's going to work is you will take a couple bars and you will process them into a weapon or a shield. And so we can see an image here of a Tarsilium sword and a Tarsilium shield, and those weaponry will have the same rarity rankings that we have on our tools, all the way from basic all the way to eternal. Now, the combat stats aren't added to your weapon yet, because we don't really need combat stats yet, because we're not actually going to be battling for a while. But you will still be able to, if you choose, to grind those higher rarities of weapons. And so when combat gets added, you're going to have some sweet equips that you can have ready for you. Now, they've also tweaked both two things on smithing bars. This is a pretty significant change. So they have halved the experience you get from smithing a bar. So say, for example, you got 100 experience before, now you'll get 50 experience. But they've also reduced the amount of steps that it takes. In the Devblog, it says bars are 60% faster to create. So you will be getting less experience from your bars, but you will also be getting through them quicker. And so the idea behind that is you get less experience making your bars, but then you turn around and turn those bars into goods, and then you get a chunk of smithing XP from making those swords and shields. So a total different kind of refocus on where exactly you get your smithing XP levels from. But they also said in the Devblog, one of the reasons why they want to do this is they want you to have to choose. Once you've made your bars, am I going to take those bars and get further smithing XP, or do I want to turn them over and make tools and get crafting experience? They want you to kind of pick your struggle and make your choice.
One thing I'm really excited about is that now some services are going to have some attributes and some requirements that need to be met. And so this is mainly going to be in your outlier buildings, right? And so if they're farther from a bank or a major city, then you might see that they're going to come with an extra little bonus. So this is really going to change the decision that people will have to make. Either they're going to now have to worry about bringing all of their travel gear, which will then convert to inventory space once they equip their crafting supplies or whatever, or just stay where there's a bank and they'll just move their inventory and craft there, but not have the bonus. So this will be really, really kind of neat experiment for the player base to see who's willing to put in a little more effort and travel just to get those perks.
It really seems like they really want us to constantly be making choices. It's not a brain dead game where everyone does the exact same thing all the time. They actually want us to decide how we're going to play. Are we going to take a more maybe casual, lazy route, just chill in town, or am I going to travel out and get a bonus and get rewarded for my extra attention? And I think that's a very interesting way to design a game.
Yeah, and the adventurer in me really likes the lore reasons for why they have bonuses. So this example here shows that it's like a haunted by a ghost. The sawmill is haunted, and so it would require a little more bravery or something just to stick around there, right? And so just little things like that just kind of make it come to life as a game instead of it just being a bullet point perk. So it's really, really fun.
So they are implementing a very, very new, interesting system. This is a system that surprises me quite a bit, but I think it has a fantastic amount of potential. So this system is called the scrap system. So here's an example of a system where you're actually reconstructing the metal bars using metal scraps. So you can see here metal scraps, and this person's actually making a copper bar. In this instance, you're going to need 5 metal scraps to make a copper bar. So that kind of begs the question of, okay, well, where are we going to get metal scraps from? This is a new item. Where are we going to gather it? So what Flower Sifter says is he'd like to take activities like horseshoe making, for example, that right now they give an assortment of low tier bars, iron, copper, bronze. And it just kind of feels a little bit out of place. Like you're making horseshoes, but you're getting bars. It just doesn't make too much sense, to be honest. So what he's saying is it would make way more sense if activities like that would provide metal scraps by doing this. So once this change is implemented, you will get metal scrap as loot from horseshoe making. What's neat about it is, in this instance, you need 5 metal scraps to make 1 copper bar. Now the next bar after that is bronze. So in that scenario, you would need 10 metal scraps. After that would be iron. So then you need 20 metal scraps. Then comes steel. So you would need 40 metal scraps. And so it goes exponentially up. The exact amounts, I actually talked to Flower Sifter today and asked him for some of just the kind of the laydown of how much scraps you need per tier. So that's why I'm sharing some of that with you guys. But when you get all the way up to Fargonite, LDH and I were calculating it, and you're going to need about 160 metal scraps to make 1 Fargonite bar. Tarsilium will be will be 80, I think it was, right? Yeah, I think it was 80. So when you're combining these metal scraps, you are getting smithing experience. So at the bottom here, we see plus 12 experience for a copper bar. That's the exact amount of experience a copper bar is going to give after this update. Now, what's really cool is Flower Sifter is doing a little bit of theory crafting for us here in the Devblog. And he says, now imagine you have 50 iron pickaxes and you're like, I don't really need them. I guess I could sell them for money. But what he would love is to potentially have a system in the future where you could take those 50 iron pickaxes and you could kind of, I guess, break them apart and get a bunch of metal scrap for it. Now, as someone who's often after XP and not always after money, I think that'd be fantastic. That'd be such a kind of an exciting way to say, well, I can't use all these tools, but at least I'll get scrap for them.
So some activities such as glacier foraging is getting an agility nerf to where people are going to experience a little bit less agility experience to be accrued when they do that activity. This is because some people were passively getting 60 and 70 level agility just for doing this one activity. And so other activities that have a dual skill role where it's some other activity plus agility will also be receiving this nerf. This is also going to incentivize people to show more attention to the agility-focused activities, such as skiing or frisbee golf. So I think that it could be really cool, especially where they mentioned that ranking up in your skiing will help you traverse around the map just a little bit more, and equipping the golden frisbee will give some other bonuses yet to be seen.
And to help us with our agility ventures, they're actually introducing a bunch of new agility gear into the game. A lot of it is going to be unlocked through achievements, and you will get it as rewards as you unlock the different points along the achievement track. So another thing that they're redoing is actually the whole UI and the way that shops interactions work. So both the selling and buying of goods. So here's an example of what it's going to look like. And you actually have a nice little summary there at the bottom of how much money you have, how much it's going to take away if you buy something. So the reason why they wanted to do this is they have new functionalities in mind for these shops. So for example, they're going to be adding other currencies to the game. So then you're going to be able to go to a special shop and trade in those special currencies for special items. So in order to do that, they had to rework a bunch of things visually. So two other things they're adding to shops, which will be really fun, is right at the top there, you can see a search feature. So if you know there's a certain good you're looking for and you know it's at this vendor, you can search for it and it will show it to you really quick. Another thing you can finally do is imagine you've crafted this like amazing tool or you got this really rare drop and you accidentally sell it to the vendor. They are now implementing a buyback feature. So you can buy that resource right back and avoid any potential heartbreak or worry that you might have. And I imagine they're doing this partly for their own sake, because I imagine in the future people will sell resources they don't want to sell. And then they're going to get petitions for, please help me recover my item. So this is great forward thinking, and I think it's a very good idea.
So finally, we have the WalkPedia, and this has been something that Shampoo has had in mind since before the closed beta. So what it is a collection log that doesn't replace the online wiki, but however, it's an in-game way of seeing the different activities that you've formed, as well as items that you've either purchased or crafted, and locations that you've visited. What I love about this the most is that it's completely spoiler-free, because it won't show anything until you yourself have accomplished something in the game. So if I want to know more about an iron hatchet, first I have to make one, right? Or if I want to know more about a location, first I have to go there. So this is really, really clever. It also will provide loot tables and different percentages of like the drop percentage for each item. And also if I'm doing an activity that will drop multiple different items or even a collectible, and I don't know if I've gotten everything that activity could possibly drop, I can check the WalkPedia and I will see if there's just question marks next to something that is supposed to go there.
And I think this is a perfect activity for people who love to collect. You know, if you love to unlock every nook and cranny in a game, if you love to feel like you're a completionist, I think this is perfect, because now instantly the moment this drops, people are going to have something to chase. They're going to have to say, oh, I don't quite have all the skills unlocked. Okay, what's left? Or I don't have all the items. And you know, for those people that do want to know exactly where they have to go or what to do, you can do this in conjunction with the wiki. You can say, oh, I have question marks on this area. I actually don't want to be surprised. I want to know. Well, then you know that you can go on the wiki and you can say, okay, what else is left? So I think this is one of the things they're adding to the game that for a lot of people will add a lot of longevity.
This also serves as a temporary tutorial for newer players until the tutorial quest is implemented. So it's really going to be helpful for all of these frequently asked questions that we find in the beginning of the game.
All right, now on to timelines. I know we're always eager. When do I get my hands on this new thing? So there are 2 releases coming up. There's the achievement system release, which is, according to this devblog, supposed to release between now and next devblog. So between now and 2 weeks from now, we should have our hands on the achievement system, which includes the achievement system that's coming in. It includes the smithing reworks. It includes the balancing. It includes the achievement system rewards off the tiers. It includes the 3 new areas on the map. But it also includes the next feature, which we will talk about in one moment, which is very exciting. But before we talk about that, we also want to talk about the Serenthia timeline. So what they're saying here is they've accomplished a lot of what they want to accomplish before Serenthia is coming out. And for those of you who don't know, Serenthia is kind of like the next expansion pack. There's new content, a new area, a new space in the map. And what they're working on right now that is still being completed before it's ready is the consumables. So fish is going to be cooked. We'll get food that will give us buffs. Maybe XP buffs to start with. The other thing they're working on is the job boards. The job boards are tasks that we can complete, items that we can submit that will give us reputation in certain areas of the game that will unlock certain perks. So that will be coming a little bit later with Serenthia, but we ideally, if everything goes smoothly for them, we'll have new content in the next 2 weeks, and the achievement system is just gonna revolutionize the way we play this game. We're going to have big goals to chase, and I just couldn't be happier that it's finally coming soon.
And the next thing that's supposed to be coming within the next 2 weeks that you were referencing is the Adventurers Guild, and I'm extremely excited about this. I think I'm really going to dedicate a lot of my focus onto this more than anything else in the game. So what it is an NPC guild that doesn't just have one central hub, but actually several different outposts throughout the land. So the first Adventurers Guild outpost that's going to unlock within these first couple weeks is a general store. Now, the requirements met to visit this store are going to be 20 achievement points, and once you have those, you can start accomplishing some tasks that the Adventurers Guild is going to give you. By fulfilling these tasks, you'll get Adventurers Guild tokens in which you can buy exclusive items that are inside of this general store. And this is the alternate currency that you were referring to earlier when we were talking about the shop rework.
For me, this is really exciting. I think anytime they add something new you can do in the game. I love that we have kind of our achievement system where we're unlocking points, which will give us rewards along the track. And then we kind of have this alternate place we can go and like complete missions for them and gather the items they're looking for these tokens. And then we can kind of like eyeball the store and we can see which items we want to save up for and try and get. So I love how they're adding more in-depth gameplay with every new thing they add. So that's the end of the devblog. The last little part is them just thanking us as players for joining them on their journey and supporting them through Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. We just want to say we really appreciate all the hard work they put into these devblogs. This was by far the longest devblog they've made. There's just so much interesting information that's coming, both in the update that should be coming in the next 2 weeks, but also that update that's coming a little bit later from Serenthia. And we just appreciate all this information. So from LDH and I, we just want to say thank you for joining us tonight. And we just want to thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks for the next devblog deep dive.